You can find your service areas in the face sheet of your application if you're not sure exactly what you clicked in there. If you currently have an amendment open, please get this done as soon as possible and back to us. A bunch of them opened up, I think, yesterday. We can't open your grant for an amendment if it's already in the process. So if it hasn't been signed by your authorized official, there's nothing we can do to open it again, which will make it very difficult to get this one open later, and possibly it may not happen. So get it in as quickly as possible. Please turn the form in. So this form that we sent out the other day, the VOCA amendment request form, please turn that form in by March 15th. Anything later will not be considered. Okay, so let's talk about the amendment form a little bit. This is very similar to the form we've been using for the last couple of years. It's a little bit different in the back. So in the beginning part here, you're going to fill out your agency name, fill in the CVA number. If you don't know your CVA number, just ask one of us, the three of us. We'll be able to let you know what that is, your analyst, and sign the form electronically. This is important. It can be signed electronically. Please do not print it off, sign it, and send it back to us. It works that way, but that makes it so that the form is no longer in Excel and we can't see the numbers. Please do this electronically. Double check your grant program that you're asking the increase for. We have had these come in before with the wrong increase or the wrong one marked, and it's not a big deal if you only have one and we can figure out what happened. It is a big deal if you mark the one that you also have a grant with. So you're going to fill out the amendment request purpose in the grant sections that you need opened. So for this one, it really should be budget amendment increase, decrease. And then your grant sections are open. It probably doesn't matter. I'm probably going to open all three of them anyway, but face sheet, definitely you're going to need the budget. And if you have a big change, you're going to want to open up the work plan. You probably won't need the narrative though. So when you're filling out the amendment justification, please be really brief on this. We do not need the extra fluff. If it doesn't fit in this box, then it's too long. Shorten it. We will ask if we need more information, so don't worry about that. If we need to know what's going on, we will ask you for the fluff. On to the second page. So we have two budgets here, which is a little bit odd. The first one is for 2019. So you're going to fill out the first column with your current budget, what is in egrams right now. Fill that out, exactly what's in there. Then show on the next, and so the increase and the decrease columns, you're going to show where you would like to increase or decrease money. Do not use negative numbers here. Do positive numbers in the increase, positive numbers in the decrease, it'll work out. The white lines are for federal money, and the gray lines are for match. Tribes actually have a slightly different form because they don't have match, so theirs is exactly the same except they don't have the match columns, or the match rows. So if your form looks slightly different, that's why. So please make sure that this is filled out correctly, especially that latest approved budget. It will seriously annoy us if you fill that out wrong. We're going to send it back to you and redo the whole thing. Do not do that. Just fill it out, make sure it's correct, have two people look at it. The second budget is for 2020. So this is a little bit more complicated. This one, there is a 3% increase that we're doing for next year. So we had to get a little bit creative. The first column here is going to take what you write in the top column and the first column in the top budget and throw it down here with a 3% increase. So that first column is what would happen if you were not doing anything to 2019. If you were just getting an increase, nothing. That's what's here. So you're going to need to fill out the increase-decrease columns with what you want for the entire year. Okay, so when you're done with this form, you're going to send it to the group email box. If you are requesting changes in staff, don't forget to attach position description and an updated org chart with the amendment form. I'm actually being told to go back to the grantee signature. When you do, make sure that you sign it. So you can do an electronic signature. I don't know if it matters if you have to do it in the beginning or the end, but make sure that someone does sign it. It has to be signed. Please do it electronically. All right, so, and then equipment is a little bit more complicated, and it's going to require an explanation of why you need the equipment over another option. So when you're talking about your justification, this is the equipment we want. Give us an idea of what the equipment is and why you need that versus a different option. So if you need to buy a car, why do you need a car instead of just using mileage? And then don't forget to check your indirect if you have it. Most changes will affect your indirect, and that includes cash match. So if you're just moving around your cash match, which you wouldn't need this amendment form for, but if you were moving around your cash match and volunteer, it would affect your indirect. So don't forget about that when you're asking for increases.
Can we show them? We have a question from David Garvin. Can we show what it looks like to sign electronically?
Can you do that? So, you should just be able to click it and type your name in. Diana is checking it out.
We are on the signature.
Do you want the microphone?
Right here, and there's just the box next to it. Yeah, it's a protected cell.
It's because it's above it. Yours looks funny. We're working on this.
It's a good question.
This is a very good question. Okay, so we are trying to get this to work. It's working on my computer, but you guys can't see my computer. So if you pull up your amendment request form, there is, right above where it says grantee signature, there's a big line with an X on it. Double click it, and it'll bring up a box where you can type your name in. And then you should be able to hit, once you've typed it in, there's a button down at the bottom that says sign, and that should be enough. If this is not working for you, give me a call and we'll figure it out. In the end, if we have to, you can turn it in as a PDF. It's just not ideal at all. Do we have any other questions?
Yep. I've got some hands raised and some additional questions. Hold on.
We tried to set this up so that we would each have our own microphone, and we ended up with lots of feedback, and it was a disaster. So now we have one microphone, and you guys can only hear me. So Diana is going to try to unmute someone.
Everyone can hear.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a clarifying question. The 2019 decrease is only for the 4 months, June till September, correct?
Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure how much you guys could hear for that. So the 2019 grant year is the increase that you're going to get, that you're requesting right now, is only going to be for the last quarter. We are not sure exactly when you're going to have access to it, but it's pretty much just going to be the last quarter by the time that we actually get it and approve all of them, and we don't know how many we're going to get. We might get 1, we might get 80. So it might take us a while to get through this, and it's only going to be for the last quarter.
And now we have some hands raised. We can go through. I am going to unmute.
So Diana's going to unmute someone.
Okay, so I've got Babette at the top. You should be unmuted now, Babette.
Go ahead, Babette. Hopefully people can hear us.
You're not hearing Babette?
I cannot hear Babette.
So, Babette, since we're having trouble hearing you, would you be able to type your question in the question box? That should be an available box for everyone. I'll go to the next attendee with a hand raised and a question. It's Alyssa Young.
Alyssa, can you hear us? You can, hopefully you're unmuted.
I'm not sure if you're talking to me. I'm Alicia.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So the funds that you're talking about will be available in the last quarter of 2019. Will that also carry over into 2020?
Yes, so the only way for it to carry over for 2020 is to fill out that second budget. So you'll fill out the first budget for just the one quarter, and then the second budget you'll add in your entire year. That way it does carry over.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. If you don't want it to carry over, that's fine. Just don't, when you fill out the second budget, fill it out as if you didn't need an increase. And then I would also put that in your justification so that we're not confused. We have a lot going on.
Understandable. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All good there? We've got Aaron Spicer.
Go ahead, Aaron. I cannot hear Aaron.
Okay, Aaron, can you type your question in the question box, please?
Please type your question in the question box. Can you guys hear Diana?
Hopefully. We do have the chat option as well. So if anyone's having problems hearing me, please let me know either through the question box or the chat. But we do have other questions in line. If we are asking for salary increases, how do we do that in the budget?
Okay, so to ask for a salary increase in the budget, you're going to fill out the salary line. So you'll talk about it in the justification section. This is who we want. This is super brief why we want it. And then in your budget, the first column will be specifically exactly what's in your budget now. The second line under increase, on the salary and wages line, you'll tell how much you want to increase it by. So you're not going to break that up per employee. If you're asking for 2 employees, they group them together, put them there. Then don't forget to also do it on your 2020, because with a person, you're going to need it for the next year. So definitely don't forget to put their full year down at the second in the 2020 budget.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. On to the next. Is grantee signature the authorized official, or can it be the finance person?
It can be the finance person. We do not care if the person signing it is the authorized official. It can be authorized official, or the financial officer would be an appropriate person.
Next question. These funds will be available in the last quarter of 2019, but will carry...
We're experiencing technical difficulties. The chat box disappeared.
The chat box got really small on me.
But it sounded like a question we'd already answered. That yeah.
Okay, so these funds will be available in the last quarter of 2019, but will carry into 2020, correct?
Yes, and we talked about that earlier. I think we probably answered that one, that if you request it in 2019 and you don't fill out the 2020 budget, then no, it's not going to carry over. You need to fill out both. Next question.
Do we have to enter a new line with the new salary and total hours at the new salary and adjust the total hours at the old salary?
This doesn't ask you for total hours or anything. This is just how much money you want to increase in the salary and wages line. So if you wanted to do raises, for instance, for employees that you currently have, then you just figure out how much those raises will be for 4 months for the quarter, and add that in 2019, and then figure out what that increase would total be for the entire 2020 and throw that in the bottom. We're not asking anything about hours. You could also make someone full-time doing the exact same thing. Just figure out how much money you need to make them full-time and throw that in there.
Diana, it's hard to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If the executive director is the direct supervisor of the CAC staff, can their time be charged to the grant director?
The executive director can never be charged to the grant. That is a rule that we cannot change.
You might want to read this one.
I'm going to try reading it. Okay, the email sent out to notify grantees of the opportunity to increase funds stated that the target implementation date is June 1st. With this in mind, should our budget increase be written for 3 or 4 months, July through September 2019 or June through September 2019? Well, for everything that we've talked about, it's been a quarter, so do it for 4 months. Yeah.
Can we make an increase request for both or multiple grants?
Yes, you can make an increase request for multiple grants if you have more than one VOCA grant. Just fill out different amendment forms. I mean, obviously, because you would no way to do that on one. But just fill out different amendment forms and turn those in, and they will be taken into consideration separately.
Is there a list of approved equipment purchases?
There is not a list of approved anything, truly, but equipment purchases in general, no. We do not have a list of approved purchases. You can request it, and we will see what happens. It's not going to hurt you to request it.
All right, and Bobette told us that her questions have been answered.
Okay.
Thank you, Bobette.
Thanks, Bobette.
Can you clarify when the increase starts? June or July? Our goal is for that final quarter. So that would be June.
June. So the plan is to have the amendment in place by June 1st. You may end up getting it a little bit earlier. It would be my hope. Just part of the thing with amendments is that they take forever. So first of all, you get it turned into us, and then we have to approve it and get it through all of our stuff, and then get it up through, I don't know, like 8 levels of people or something to finally open it when eGrams opens it for you. And then you guys get a couple of weeks. And most people take longer than that couple of weeks. So if you guys sit on it for a month, it's going to take longer. And then it comes back to us and it has to go through all those bazillion people again. So it does take a bit to do that. We have given ourselves enough time that we should be able to get it before June 1st, but that kind of depends on how it gets through the system.
Yes, we're confusing people because a quarter is 3 months, but our goal
is for 4 months.
Is for 4 months.
Yeah. Sorry.
So yeah, that was the next, quite a few comments. A quarter is 3 months.
Yes.
Okay, will both 2019 and 2020 be approved at the same time, or will we not find out about the 2020 allocation until later?
Okay, so the question is, will 2019 and 2020 be approved at the same time? The way that we are designing this currently is to have them both be approved at the same time. They're all in the same form. This is going to make it easy for us, easy for you, everything, get them approved at the same time. I can't make a promise on that will end up being what happens, but that is our intention.
July through September. I think that's the remaining questions. Let's go back to see if anybody else has their hand raised.
We're checking to see if anybody has their hand raised. Hopefully it would work this time.
I think the trick is if you have a microphone
for
your computer to hear you. We do. We have Dory.
Okay.
I'm going to try here.
Okay, Dory, you've been unmuted. Do you have a question? Doesn't look like Dory wanted to talk to us. Go ahead and type your question, Dory, into the chat box, and we'll get to you.
And you may have already. There it is. If you would like to request a new position or equipment purchase to be funded for 2020, but not the current grant, could we make this request through this process?
Yes, that, to be honest, would be a lot easier because, okay, so the question is, if you wanted to have, to request something for 2020, but you don't want to do it in 2019, can you just request for 2020? Yes. Mention that in the narrative section. Say you're only looking for 2020, do your budget for 2020. That will be slightly easier because the way we have done this so late, the allocations have to go in earlier. So we have to send something up to eGrams letting them know how much money you guys are going to get for next year. We have to do that by March 4th. So none of this is going to them. So everyone who's asking for money in 2019 then has to do another amendment in 2020. We will have already approved it and it will be faster to get through us, but we are still going to have to go through eGrams. If you do it this way and only ask for stuff for 2020, you won't have to go through all that. You only have to go through it once.
And there was a question as well from Sonia. When we submit the budget increase, should we submit each year separately?
Okay, so the question was, when you submit the budget increase, should you do them separately? Should you submit them each separately? And no. This form is set up specifically so that you can do both on the same form. It'll be a lot easier for you that way, and it's easier for us to compare. They asked for an increase for this, and then the next year they went crazy. No. So this will keep it all together in one spot, and we'll know what's going on.
If we have amendments that were opened yesterday, can we submit this amendment before that one is signed?
Yes. Okay. So if you have an amendment that was opened yesterday, that finally got opened yesterday, so you're actually able to go in there and make changes, you can submit this form to us now, no problem. But we won't be able to open the amendment so that you can make changes until the other one is completely through the entire 1.5 to 2 month process. You're already partway into that, but you still need to get that done as quickly as possible. So do a quick turnaround on that. And we understand that's not your fault. Apologize for that. But get that back to us as quickly as possible so that we can push it through so that when this one opens up, you'll have as much time as possible to get that through the system and actually start getting the money.
Is there a place where you can add an attachment on this form, like a position description?
There's nowhere on the actual form to attach anything. It's just an Excel sheet. But you can attach it to the email. So when you go to turn this in, you're going to turn it in through an email and just attach this form and then all of the position descriptions or org chart or anything else that you need to attach with it.
And that was a question from Janine. I'm going to attempt to unmute you again because I see your hand was raised. Janine, can you talk to us?
Go ahead, Janine.
No, that was my question. I figured I'd type it.
Oh, okay. She just typed it.
That got it. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, question from Gail. Can you touch on the check boxes for the tabs that need to be checked for budget, narrative, and so on?
Okay, so that's on the first page of this form. So you can go ahead and pick which ones you want on here. So the reason I originally added this on there, and it's probably coming off soon, is I kept forgetting to open the work plan. So you can check mark whichever boxes you feel you need to have opened in your amendment so that you can actually make changes to it. I'm probably just going to open the face sheet and the budget automatically for everyone. If you want the work plan, go ahead and click it. I just keep forgetting to do it. And so this was a way to remind me to make sure if you guys wanted it, then I didn't have to just think about the fact you wanted it. I knew you wanted it. It's right there. But it doesn't truly matter. You don't need the narrative really, but the face sheet and the budget you will definitely need, and possibly the work plan. Definitely don't stress over that if you don't know what to do. I will figure it out.
We almost always open the face sheet, right?
I pretty much always open the face sheet in the budget.
Yep. So a question from Anne. If the full amount requested is not granted, is it possible that a lesser amount will be awarded?
Anne is asking if it's possible for a lesser amount to be awarded. I would think yes. It's not something we've specifically discussed, but yeah, if you request something and we cut it, this isn't like the application where we can't talk to you. We can call you and get clarification and say, you know what, this doesn't make sense to us, but what about this, and make it and discuss it. Most likely with a new amendment form, but that way everyone's agreeing on the numbers. But yes, you could end up with a lower amount than what you asked for.
And the follow-up question to that is there an opportunity to prioritize the need?
Yes, there would be an opportunity to prioritize the need because our reasoning wouldn't be, oh, she's asking for too much. It would be, this isn't allowable. And so in which case that's not really a priority thing, but there'll be a discussion on it. We're going to need your help because we can't cut salary and wages and then we figure out how much you need for fringe benefits. So there has to be a discussion.
From Mary, can bookkeeping duties be paid for by VOCA? If so, what's the percentage? And if it wasn't in the 2019 budget, can it be added in 2020?
Can bookkeeping be in the grant? I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not going to try to fake it. So I don't know. You can go ahead and put it in there. We've had discussions on it, and Dinah's laughing at me because she knows I don't know and I can't tell you. So go ahead and put it in there, and the worst that can happen is that we say no.
If in the 2019 grant you only need a budget line item transfer, and in 2020 you need the budget amendment, I think that means budget increase. Do you check both boxes?
That is awesome. That is an amazing question. I like it. I would actually hit other and put something in there about it. You could just hit both. It's not super important. The big thing, because we'll be able to see in the budget what it is, so it won't matter really. You could click both. You could say other. It doesn't matter.
Yep. Down here in the budget, it wouldn't be an increase. It would be evident that you're doing a line item.
Yes, so in the budget, when you're doing only a line item transfer, you'd fill out the latest approved budget just like it is in eGrems, and then you'd do an increase for, I don't know, $50 in salary and wages, and then a decrease for $50 in salary, or in whatever you were moving it to. So, moving it from.
Okay, so a follow-up. So it may be possible that bookkeeping related to the VOCA grant may be considered for match?
It would match, and actually, in federal money would be the same to us. We don't have there's if it's allowable for either. And so I can't even tell you if it's possible. I'm not going to let myself get backed into this corner. So no, I have no idea. Put it in there and we will discuss it. It opens up the discussion. This is one of those ones that we've talked about it a lot, and we've never come to a yes, this is allowable or not. And so I do not want to get anyone's hopes up on this one. Go ahead and ask for it and see what happens. You can ask for it for match too, though. We don't mind. I don't care.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any other hands raised? Any questions that have not been addressed? You might not hear me. Oh, here.
We have another question.
Yep, another question from Shelley. Is it allowed to put in a part-time volunteer coordinator?
Part-time volunteer coordinator. We don't. I guess there was a while where we prefer full-time people. It is not a requirement, so you can ask for a part-time coordinator. Volunteer coordinators are generally not approved, but allowable. But once again, I'm not going to tell you that you will be approved for that, but I'm sure you know that.
You can make the request.
Yes, you can always request it.
And a volunteer coordinator is an allowable
Yeah,
position.
it is normally an allowable position.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us in our slight technical challenges.
Yeah.
We do have another question here. If we do not presently use de minimis for indirect, can we add this in on this amendment?
Yep. So someone's asking, if you do not currently have a de minimis, can you request it in this? The answer to that is yes. You can go ahead and do that. Do think about de minimis. It is a lot. I think it's great. I love the idea that we can do de minimis, but if you have de minimis on one federal grant, you have to have de minimis on all your federal grants. And starting with the 2020 year, we are going to work within the division to make sure that if it's, because they're going for the new stuff with eGrems, they're actually going to have a whole new application process just like we did. You can add it in there. I'm saying nothing on if you should or if you're going to get more money for it, because I don't believe that's happening, but it is going to be a possibility to physically do it. So if you do that here, you're going to have to do it there. Something to keep in mind. If you do it in your 2019 grant and not 2020, then you will have to fix the entire year, not just the 4 months.
I know that we do have some grantees that have begun using de minimis on one of their grants, and they will be using this opportunity to bring de minimis onto all of their grant budgets. So
yes, we do have some people that are doing that. So it was, Diana said that we do have some that have multiple grants with us, some that have de minimis and some that don't, and they are using this to fix that problem. So it is happening.
okay. let's see, Rebecca had a follow-up question. Would we check other for the de minimis increase since it's a new line?
No, you could. That's still an increase. It's still an increase in funding, so you could just click increase.
Okay. And Eileen, can volunteer coordinators coordinate all volunteers or only direct service volunteers?
Okay, so we had a question that can volunteer coordinators coordinate all volunteers or just direct service volunteers? As long as they are working with the victim stuff, they can be doing whatever. So they do not necessarily have to be direct service, but they do need to be working with victims or working along those lines. So that is going to start to get into gray area. We may want to talk about that on our own. But yes, they should be able to because they're still necessary.
That's the reality of the position.
Yeah, it is. Though, just to reiterate, since the way I said that does make it sound funny, you can only use volunteers in your budget that are direct service volunteers. That is still true. For match, yep.
Okay, and this is a volunteer match question as well. Our match is through volunteers. I'm confused to see the match under fringes. Can VOCA's funds be used for overnight coverage?
Okay, so the question here is just it's the way I did the Excel book. I had 10 seconds to do this, so work with me on this, guys. So basically, it's not actually under fringes. Fringe are just gray, and match is white. So it's not a part of it. It looks, I can see why you'd say that because it does look like that, but that is not what it was originally meant to be. I was just trying to separate the two so you could totally tell they were two different things to make it less confusing. What was the second half of that question?
Can VOCA funds be used for overnight coverage?
Can VOCA funds be used for overnight coverage?
Depends on the type of coverage you're talking about.
Yes, this seems obvious to me, so I feel like there might be more to this question, so you might want to call your analyst. We don't care when you're doing the services, day, night, whatever, so it would not matter to us at all. So I have a feeling you have more to this question than what I'm understanding. So go ahead and give your analyst a call, and they can help you on that.
The amendment is available for both the VOCA grant and the VOCA targeted grant?
Yes, this amendment is available for everything except the sexual assault grant that just went out, and they started in January. Anybody else can fill it out.
Are program directors allowed to be part of the wage requests?
Program directors can be in the budget, so yes, they can be part of increases or whatever, or decreases or whatever you want to do with that. Anybody in the budget can be. Financial officers and authorized officials cannot be in the budget, but project directors can.
Oh, and here's Mary clarifying the last question. I mean, under only fringes, only for volunteer match.
Mary, please give me a call. I have no idea. I'm being slow today. I'm sorry, Mary. I have no idea. Give me a call and we will figure this out. Hopefully I'll be at my desk before too awful long.
I think her confusion was like, could you ask for an increase just under volunteer fringe?
Yeah. You can ask for an increase just for volunteer fringe. If that's your question, then you can ask for it just under volunteer fringe. You probably would want one under volunteer unless your stuff had been screwed up in the first place. It's just to fix it. You could do that. You could do an increase for volunteer fringe.
Okay, and Rebecca had a follow-up. I'm not sure what this is referencing. It's a question asking, is this including the CAC fund and CTF grants?
This is only for the VOCA grants. So I believe both of those are DV board side. So the division is working on getting things all together, but in this is still only the VOCA grants. So if it's not listed above in the things you can click on, then it cannot be, this won't work for that. Though I think the sexual assault one's up there too, I just didn't take it off.
if a staff has retired from DHHS and is receiving a retirement from there, can they be paid for by VOCA?
I have no idea.
That's
If someone retired from DHHS or from the state in general, because I'm not positive that matters, from the state in general, and they are receiving retirement, can they be paid for on this? I cannot answer that for you. So whoever that is Mary, right?
mm-hmm.
We'll find out and we will let you know. I know that there's some complication, but I believe the complication is that you have to let us know. I do not think that it matters, but I don't want to tell you that, so we'll find out and let you know. Will someone write that down? We all know that I will not remember.
A transcript of all of these questions. I think the upside of having everyone type them in, and we can actually type in our answers.
So Diana's saying that we're gonna get the transcript and send it out to you guys so that you guys will have all of this in writing.
Okay. So on to Sherry's question. Are administrative staff allowed, like secretaries, reception?
Are administrative staff allowed? They would have to be working in direct service to be allowable, but those people a lot of times are, so it depends on what the position is, but you can always throw it in there. Make sure that the position description does include what they're doing that is direct service. If they are doing like half the time they're doing direct service, then don't ask for 100% of the person.
If that person is doing grant administrative support.
Grant administrative support does actually count as well. Diana brought this up. So if the person is doing all of your statistics and all of that kind of stuff, or if you have someone who is, yeah, that's pretty much it. If they're doing all your statistics and things, then yes, you can add that in. We will pay for that.
If you are serving another county outside your home county, are you able to request funds to help provide these services?
So if you are requesting services to provide services outside of the area that you are working on, outside your home county, can you use these funds to do that? You can apply for it. I'm not going to tell you not to. I'm not sure the answer to that because it's possible that would be seen as increasing in a way that should have been competitively bid. So you would then be told no. So I'm not positive. It does not hurt you to ask to try for it. The other thing with that is that we would then need to make sure that you had that the other people that were already in that area, you weren't stepping on their toes. So in your justification, talk about the fact that you've already talked to these other people and they're on board.
From Tracy, another question about volunteer coordinator positions. Did I hear you say that the volunteer position could work with direct service volunteers and fundraising volunteers, for example, since they would be training both volunteers?
Fundraising is never, ever, ever allowable. If they're training them at the same time, I don't see why that would be an issue.
But yeah, I think her point is it might be part of the volunteer coordinator's job description.
Yeah.
To work with.
If you give yourself, so if you give yourself on the volunteer coordinator a little bit that's not funded by VOCA, you'll cover yourself there.
Okay, back to de minimis. If we use de minimis on VOCA, do we also need to use it on CAC fund and CTF grants? Simply because they are run through eGrams, or is it only the grant program you list since those are run through CVS?
Okay, so it has nothing to do with eGrams. I'm going to repeat the question because that was dumb. Okay, so if you have de minimis in your VOCA grants, and you also have a CTF, which is Children's Trust Fund, or CAC fund grants as well, do they both have to have indirect because they're in eGrams? It has nothing to do with eGrams. It's actually if they're federal or not. So if you have federal grants and you have indirect on one federal grant, then you have to have indirect on all federal grants. The CAC fund might be state, and I don't know what the other one is. So if those two are not federal, then they don't matter. You don't have to have de minimis on those and may not have the option to. Forgive me, though, I don't know a lot about those grants, so you'll have to look into that.
a program director.
Yes, you can pay for the entire salary of a program director. That is not enough information for me to tell you that we will, but it is a possibility depending on what the person is doing. We will pay for supervision of direct service staff. This brings me back to that executive director question. Except for executive directors, we will never pay for executive directors. But this is a probably. Depends on what the person is doing.
Okay, this is a good question. Janine, is the hourly volunteer match amount, like the wage per hour amount, the same?
For the 2019, yes. The 2020, we've been updating it every year for the last couple of years, so it probably will go up, but we don't know what it is yet, so run with it being the same, and then when the app comes out, you can change it. The amount is all that matters anyway.
Yeah. So, this is in response. This is Mary's. I'm forgetting which question this was connected to, but she's saying that DB Comp says no, it's in the contract. However, is VOCA different? Is my question.
Things are changing, so
Is the admin question?
I'm thinking de minimis, so I guess I'm on a different thing here. If you're talking about de minimis, things are changing. We are working on this within the division, and you're going to have it across everything. If you're talking about something else, what was the other question?
It might be.
If you're talking about the DHHS question, we have no idea. We're working on that still.
Okay. It was referring to the DHHS employee.
Yeah,
Okay.
we still have no idea.
All right. We'll circle back with that.
We honestly have no idea on this one. Okay, someone asked, can we use the executive director salary as match if they are direct service? Nope. It's the problem is the title. There's nothing we can do on that one.
All right. Yep. I'm realizing.
We've missed a couple, so we're going back.
So we're going back up. So a program director who is doing direct service, supervision of advocates, and community outreach will VOCA pay their entire salary.
So if you have a program director who is doing only direct service, supervision of advocates, and community outreach, will VOCA pay for their entire salary. I cannot say that we will do that in your instance because I need to look at your position description, but yes, all of that looks allowable to me, and we don't care if it's the entire salary or not. Next question, can you reiterate what was said regarding allowable project directors? We don't care at all about the title project director. It means nothing to us. So what's allowable and unallowable with that doesn't matter. It's the position itself and what they're actually doing. As long as they're doing direct service things that are allowable in the grant, then they'll be allowed. The only time we ever care about the EGREM's titles, authorized official and financial officer, cannot be in the grant. That has to do with checks and balances to make sure that someone isn't paying themselves.
Okay, and this is Adam's follow-up. If you have a satellite site, are you able to share positions? For example, having a second part-time interviewer between two CACs. So
if you have a satellite site, can you have one person that goes back and forth between the two? It makes no difference to us. We wouldn't even notice. That is on you guys on what you want to do with your employees.
An additional question about executive director salary, if they are a direct supervisor of the CAC staff.
I believe I answered that. So if you have an executive director who is directly supervising people, then no, we cannot pay for it.
If an employee is match and doing direct service, can mileage be funded?
If an employee is match and doing direct service, can mileage be funded? Yes, that would be allowable. It'd be under direct mileage, yeah. You could either use it as cash match or you could use it as federal funds. Doesn't matter to us.
Okay, I see some hands are still raised. I think Bobette and Adam, we got your questions. Tracy, did we?
She asked a question.
All of your questions. I'm going to unmute you and see if that works?
Tracy, you've been unmuted. You're on. Do you have a question still?
Yeah, I think that you answered my question. I mean, we currently are not using our volunteer coordinator to train any fundraising volunteers because fundraising was a no-go for VOCA.
Huge, yeah.
But I mean, so somebody else is doing the training of those volunteers. So it kind of sounded like that might have been something that volunteer coordinator can do based on what you were saying today.
The
So I'm a little
safest way.
confused.
Am I muted? No.
Yes, you're
Okay.
unmuted.
Okay, cool. I have no idea. The safest, what you're doing is the safest way. Fundraising is huge, and it's something that we cannot do. So what you're doing is the absolute safest way to do it. Especially little agencies, I would think, wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to do that. So that would be a very great way to do it. If you can do it that way, that is the best possible way to not have the VOCA-funded people doing anything at all with fundraising. My thought is if you were going to have a big group volunteer stuff, everyone's coming in then, and one of them was someone who's going to be working on fundraising, they may need to be in the same meeting, and that's how the world works. But the more you can keep it separate, the better. Also, they would need different training too. So most of the time, if it would be different kinds of training, so it wouldn't necessarily overlap a lot.
Okay, I think that's clear now to me.
Sorry, sometimes I can be clear as mud. It's what I do.
All right, that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay. So we left off at Gail's question about match and direct service. Sonia had a question. Can de minimis funds pay for part of the executive director's time working specifically with the VOCA program?
Okay, so de minimis funds, we don't care what you do with it. You get 10%. You can pay for whatever you want with it. We're not asking, and so that is your decision.
We can say that is how some programs have been.
Yes, some people do pay their executive director that way.
So mileage for those who do direct service can be used. We can use mileage for match. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, you can use mileage for match. You would need to put in a cash line. So if you had, for instance, if you had a line for direct mileage, then you could have part of it be federal and part of it be cash match, no problem. It wouldn't have to be cash match. It doesn't have to be federal, but that way you can do both.
Our volunteer coordinator also does direct service. Can I make her full-time under VOCA?
Possibly, depending. So their volunteer coordinator also does direct service. Can they make them full-time? Possibly. It would be just like any other position that we would have to approve it. That's not what you said there would not disqualify anything.
If we add staff, can we also increase rent expenses?
If you add staff, can you increase rent? Yes, you can request it. Obviously, I'm not approving it, but yes, you can request it.
Can we also say something about the square footage?
The square footage did change. I don't know if any of you guys know that. I think we talked about it at the big one, but the square footage did change. It used to be like $150 an employee or something. I think it's $1,500 an employee now per month. So but you can't go over, I believe, $10 per square foot and 150 square foot per employee. So the 1,500 sounds good and all, but the other two are kind of what matters. So don't go over the $10 per square foot.
Will VOCA ever consider paying overtime, considering the crisis nature of our work and the fact that advocates cannot always limit their hours?
VOCA does not pay overtime, and I can't see that changing. So no, we will not pay overtime.
If we want to ask for funding for a position that's currently the financial officer, when and how do we change this?
You would have to change. Right, so how would you, if you were going to ask for funding for someone who is currently the financial officer, how would you change this? You would need to make someone else your financial officer. If they are someone like if you have someone who's doing it who really shouldn't be anyway, and you're trying to switch it over to an accountant or something like that, then just say you wanted to put the financial officer in there, run it as a normal in your justification, what it is you need them to do for the grant, like they weren't the financial officer. Throw in there the fact they are the financial officer and you want to change that. That should be good enough.
And should it be noted in the request?
Yes, it should be noted in the request that you're trying to do that, please.
If we own our building, can we charge depreciation?
If you own your building, you cannot charge depreciation.
Can you say again what you said at the beginning about using this for replacing the stop grant?
Okay, so at one point, it was brought up that you could use this, that we were going to release something specifically to replace stop grant funding. Stop grant funding is having a massive overhaul right now, and so many people are going to lose their stop grant funding. This isn't specifically to replace that. This has nothing to do with stop grant. That doesn't mean you can't replace your funds with it. Use it. Use this as an opportunity to replace those funds, but we do not care at all about it. We don't know anything about stop funds. We are not involved in that. So you can go ahead and ask for what you want. The important thing is to make sure that if you have a grant that only does one thing, all you're doing is child abuse, you can't go into a new service area and start going into domestic violence. It has to be under the same exact thing. So check to make sure that whatever it is you want to go into is something that the grant you're requesting funds for also is already in that section, in that service area.
Is time spent on recruitment and hiring of staff considered legitimate time by a project director?
Is time spent on recruitment and hiring of staff considered legitimate? I mean, it's part of your supervisory roles, so I would think yes.
Is there a maximum amount of VOCA will pay for retirement, i.e. 3% or 8%?
Is there a maximum amount that VOCA will pay for retirement? I have not seen this. I mean, if you get ridiculous on it, then we might say something, but I have not seen anyone go ridiculous on that, so no.
Does VOCA cover shelter staff?
Does VOCA cover shelter staff? Yes. VOCA used to be, just give everyone else a backup on this, it used to be we did not cover anything with domestic violence shelters in the actual shelter. That rule has changed, and we do cover that. If you're going to request that we cover someone in the shelter, make sure that domestic violence is one of your service areas. I don't think I have any other words for wisdom on it, but you can request it. It's allowable. Is that the last question?
So far, anybody have any other questions? You can either...
Questions? Oh, we have another one.
How will you determine funding if all requests greatly exceed the amount you have available?
We've not discussed it. We don't have a set amount that we're only going to give out 100,000 and it has to be split between people. At that point, we would have to discuss how we were going to make that decision, but that we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I would say because of the increase in VOCA funds available, this isn't.
We're not overly worried about it.
A big concern.
Yeah. If requesting supplies, is there anything specific that needs to happen for this? Like, do you need documentation? No. Just under supplies, tell us how much you need to increase it, and then in your justification, say you want a copier. If you are asking for $5,000 for a copier, you might get a call on why are you doing that, especially since then at that point it would be equipment. Why are you doing that instead of renting it or something like that? But that's up to you guys. We would just be wanting to clarify and make sure that we're okay with it. Just, yeah. Don't buy a $2,000 shredder. Okay, so if you have questions after this, all three of us are available. I don't know about these guys, but this week is pretty much filled with meetings. So if I don't answer the phone, I will call you back. But you can always give us a call to talk to us about different questions on this. We are open. This is not a closed anything. It's not competitive, so you can call and talk to us.
So we're on Maria's question. I'm going to meet with our project director to discuss these available funds. Yeah, you got it?
Yep, I got that one.
So if we rent, do we not need to keep a log or anything?
I don't think I understand your question. So if you are renting, do you not need to keep a log? So I'm thinking maybe she means with the copier, if she does a copier. So maybe I misunderstood the first question.
This is Adam. And let's see. I had asked you before about retirement. I think we do need a copy of your rental agreement.
Yeah, we do need a copy of a rental agreement if you're getting like a building or something.
Oh, you're talking about copiers.
Copier.
Okay, so I was under the impression that if we request a copier that we have to keep extra documentation.
Okay, let me think. What documentation do you need if you request a copier? Well, you need to make sure that, so if you have an office that is 100% VOCA, then you wouldn't need anything. If you have an office that is 50% VOCA, then you would have to show that 50% of the copier is actually being used by VOCA staff to charge 50% of it. So in which case you may have to either pay for only part of it with ours or I think there's different ways to do it. You can keep a log of how many copies are specifically VOCA, and to get truly, if you wanted to do this, to truly do that, you'd have to talk to Bob and Ron to make sure that you're doing it correctly. I'm not saying don't do it. It probably isn't that hard. It's just that I can't give you that information.
Okay, hopping back to like space rental. What if we need to rent space but don't have a lease because we are needing the money in order to rent?
You don't have to have the lease now to put it in here. So if you are wanting to lease more space, and you can go ahead and put that in here and say that you want, this is how much you want to put, and it is a budget. It's not, we're not going to hold you to this at the end of the year that, oh, you went $10 over. We're not going to do that. So put in there, this is what we're planning on spending in rent. We won't go over the 1,500 per employee, but you can go ahead and do that, and then you can give us the lease afterwards, and we'll put it in your file.
Okay. That looks like that's all the questions.
Looks like we're done on questions.
So again, we will type up answers for these and send it out to attendees.
We're going to type up all the answers on these and send them out to attendees. We probably will wait until after the second one, so look for that next week.
That's a good plan.
We are going to have 2 of these.
But thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming to the webinar. You guys are probably hearing a double thing here because I'm just repeating everything she says. If you have more questions, go ahead and give us a call. We do not mind talking to you. And I guess good luck and have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Bye.